After hitting several islands in the Caribbean, Tropical Storm Elsa has made landfall in Cuba, where some 180,000 people were preventively evacuated. The 42nd regular summit of the 15 Caribbean community heads of government began this Monday in Georgetown, with the COVID-19 pandemic and response to natural disasters high on the agenda. In Nigeria, a group of armed individuals stormed a secondary school in the state of Kaduna and kidnapped scores of students. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is from the south, and I'm Katrina Goss. And here in Cuba, 180,000 people had already been evacuated before Tropical Storm Elsa reached the island this Monday. In its course, the storm has hit the islands of Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Haiti, the Dominican Republic and Jamaica, causing floods and damage to homes and crops. 2 people were reported dead in the Dominican Republic and 1 in St. Lucia. Elsa swept along Cuba's southern coast early Monday before making landfall near the Bay of Pigs in the afternoon, authorities reported. Preparations were rapidly made over the weekend in the island through its civil defence system and local organisations to evacuate those at risk and ensure essential supplies. According to the forecast track, Elsa is expected to continue to move over west-central Cuba for the next several hours, as the provinces of Cienfuegos, Matanzas, Camagüey, Ciego de Ávila, Sancti Spiritus, Villa Clara, Mayabeque and Havana are under a tropical storm warning. And our collaborator Diego Martin brings us updated information on the passage of Tropical Storm Elsa across Cuba.
Tropical Storm Elsa is already causing rains and floods in the southern coast of Cuba's eastern region. It advances with slow pace to the west of the country. The national authorities evacuated 180,000 people in coast areas.
It is important because we have small children and we have to take care of them.
To prevent any losses or damages in human lives.
To avoid the loss of human lives under any circumstances.
There have been also reported damages in agriculture, and there have been absolutely no losses of human lives. This is thanks to the cooperation between the population and the authorities that have made it possible to be in a safe environment up till now. Tropical Storm Elsa has hit the Caribbean territories of Haiti, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, St. Lucia and Puerto Rico. Reports confirm a death toll of 3 people.
Thank you, Diego. Moving on to Bolivia, where the former commanders of the Bolivian Air Force and Navy were arrested on Sunday for their alleged involvement in the coup against Evo Morales in October 2019. General Jorge González Terceros and Admiral Gonzalo Harjuri Rada are being investigated for the crimes of sedition, terrorism and conspiracy. In addition, in May, a criminal court expanded the investigation against both officers for unconstitutional actions and breach of military duties. With these 2 arrests, there are now 5 high-ranking military officers in custody in the context of the coup. Also in preventative detention are Denis Áñez, who in November 2019 proclaimed herself president of Bolivia, and several former officials of Áñez's dictatorship. In Colombia, 82 people have suffered eye injuries by the mobile anti-riot squadron in the framework of the national strike mobilizations that began on April 28th, human rights defenders said. According to the non-governmental group Temblores, 60% of eye injuries have been identified in Bogotá, but they've also been recorded in the departments of Valle del Cauca and Cundinamarca, as well as in the cities of Pasto and Popayán. The director of the Action Programme for Equality and Social Inclusion of Los Andes University, Juliana Bustamante, stated that shooting at the eyes is deliberate, seeking to punish those participating in protests. In another count, the number of cases identified rise to 200, the resistance movement against eye injuries claims. A bridge under construction in Mexico City threatens ancestral wetlands of Xochimilco, a group of environmentalists announced on Monday. The wetland is registered in the Ramsar Convention, an international treaty on the conservation and wise use of wetlands. It was also declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1987 and has been considered a natural protected area since 1992, which specifically prohibits infrastructure works and logging. Since mid-2020, the bridge construction opened a legal battle between the government of Mexico City and the coordination of native peoples and neighborhoods of Xochimilco.
The wetland is a temperature regulator. It is a place where water is captured that could later reach the wells and from which we supply our homes. It is a place where many endemic species and many migratory birds live.
I believe that the most serious problem is that it opens the door to promoting the destruction of any ecosystem, no matter how protected, with different national and international tools.
A court in Honduras ruled Monday on the murder of environmental activist Berta Cáceres. By unanimous vote, the tribunal found businessman Roberto Castillo Mejia guilty of masterminding the crime. Castillo, chairman of an energy company, conspired with other executives and an army officer to plan the assassination, which was executed by 3 hired killers. Cáceres had been fighting the construction of a dam in which Castillo was involved. Castillo's sentence will be handed down at a hearing on August 3rd.
The responsibility of David Castillo as co-author of the vile murder of Berta has been demonstrated in this trial. I demand justice for my daughter, that the law be applied to its full extent, that even though I can't kiss her or hold her, at least justice be done, so that never again is assassinated in Honduras or any other place in the world a woman who defends the rights of indigenous people.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Sunday issued an ultimatum to the global COVAX mechanism for fair vaccine distribution, denouncing discrimination against his country. COVAX, an alliance of United Nations and the World Health Organization with private charities, had promised 100 million doses by the end of March. By the beginning of July, it had supplied just 95 million.
Either they send us the vaccines or they give us our money back. Full stop. And if they give us our money back, we will know where to go to buy them, because we have already talked to global multilateral institutions to do that. Either they send us the vaccines or they give us our money back. But enough of the COVAX system's mockery of the Venezuelan people. I say it publicly, the COVAX system has failed the people of Venezuela. I don't know if it has failed the people of the world, and they are not giving us an answer. I have given precise instructions to the Executive Vice President, who is the President of the COVAX Presidential Commission, to act this week and to give the COVAX system an ultimatum.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The 42nd regular summit of the 15 Caribbean Community Heads of Government began this Monday in Georgetown, with the COVID-19 pandemic and the response to natural disasters high on the agenda. The 2-day meeting at CARICOM's headquarters in the Guyanese capital is chaired by incoming Chairman Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown. The impact of recent natural disasters, including the eruption of La Soufri volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the widespread flooding in Guyana and Suriname, will also be examined. The heads of government will receive updates on Hurricane Elsa's passage through several member states.
I welcome you all to the 42nd regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Mr. Chairman, heads of government, as we mourn the continuing loss of life and count the costs of lost livelihoods from the COVID-19 pandemic, we must design a recovery that will not only resuscitate our economies, but also enhance the resilience of our community. It is our duty to fortify our community against the factors that threaten its viability and the sustainable well-being of our people. That is a priority which not only has brought us here at this time, but which is the driving force of our integration movement.
Colleagues, it was an honor to serve as chairman of the Conference of CARICOM, Heads of Government, for the first 6 months of this tumultuous year. During that time, our countries have been faced with uncertainty on many fronts, from virus to vaccines to variants. Through it all, we have rallied and we now stand on a somewhat firmer ground as a result of the coordination and collaboration among member states, associate members, and our institutions.
We meet today against a backdrop of economic, social, financial, and environmental storms, more intense than the hurricanes that swirl around us every year during the season. And like the hurricanes and storms, economic and social turmoil engendered by COVID-19 and its effects threaten our very survival. Indeed, as I speak, several of our member states are recovering from the effects of Hurricane Elsa, I take this opportunity to offer the solidarity and support of the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda and of the entire community to our affected member states.
The fourth ministerial meeting of the Stockholm Initiative for Nuclear Disarmament started this Monday in Madrid, Spain. 16 countries were invited by the foreign ministers of Spain, Sweden and Germany. The meeting will focus on analysing the current situation of the international system of disarmament and nuclear non-proliferation. The background to this encounter is that after Donald Trump took office as President of the United States, that country withdrew from the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, leaving in place only the 2010 New Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, or New START, to limit nuclear weapons, and which was recently expanded until 2026. Almost 600 asylum seekers were rescued in the Mediterranean Sea over the past few days and are on board the humanitarian ship Ocean Viking. The aid agency SOS Méditerranée says it's saved a total of 572 people in the Mediterranean Sea in recent days. Those rescued include more than 100 children, the vast majority of them unaccompanied. The International Organization for Migration reports the deaths of over 800 people attempting to cross the sea since the start of this year. Last year, the death toll was more than 1,000. Hackers are demanding a $70 million ransom to restore data stolen from hundreds of companies worldwide. Frantic research is underway in several countries as a group identified as Revel is the main suspect in the hacking of hundreds of small and medium-sized companies. While mainstream media automatically link this group to Russia, US authorities do not back that claim. The cyber group broke into Kaseya, a Miami-based information technology firm, and used their access to breach some of its clients' information, setting off a chain reaction that quickly paralyzed the computers of hundreds of firms worldwide. Those hit included schools, small public sector bodies, travel and leisure organizations, credit unions, and accountants.
Authorities are very, very confident it was the Our Evil group, which is, it's not state affiliated with Russia. So, they don't believe it's the Russian quote unquote government or the intelligence agencies. It's a worldwide hacker affiliate or hacker associate, if you will, that has people all around the world. And that's whom they are extremely confident is behind this.
The head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, underwent surgery for an inflamed colon on Sunday. The 85-year-old pontiff was admitted to Rome's Gemelli University Hospital for a scheduled surgery for symptomatic diverticular stenosis of the colon, a condition that causes potentially painful inflammation on the colon walls and which tends to multiply with age, a Vatican statement read. Earlier on Sunday, Francis performed the weekly Angelus prayer at St. Peter's Square, and in the afternoon the pontiff arrived at the clinic accompanied by his driver and one close aide. In recent years, the Pope has had to cancel some public appearances and sometimes has difficulty walking, media reported. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Nigeria, a group of armed individuals stormed a secondary school in the state of Kaduna and kidnapped scores of students. According to local media, the armed group stormed the Bethel Baptist Secondary School at around 1 p.m. and fired shots to intimidate civilians and security guards. 140 students were reported to have been abducted. Kaduna has recently faced a series of attacks by armed groups, including assaults on schools. In 2020, over 900 people were killed and almost 2,000 abducted in insurgent attacks. Egypt has officially unveiled a strategic Mediterranean naval base. The base, which is set to secure shipping lines in the Mediterranean Sea, was officially opened by the country's president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The new military installation, located 255 kilometers west of Alexandria towards the border with Libya, will be focused on securing the country's northern and western front. Egypt has 3 other naval bases in the Mediterranean and 1 in the Red Sea. A South African top court has agreed to hear former President Jacob Zuma's challenge against his legal sentence on contempt charges. The country's constitutional court sentenced Zuma to 15 months in jail last Tuesday for failing to appear at the corruption inquiry led by Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Sondo in February. Zuma was initially given until the end of Sunday to hand himself in, after which police would be obliged to arrest him. But the court has agreed to hear his appeal on July 12th. Thousands have taken to the streets in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, to protest against rising numbers of killings by extremists. The protest came after 130 people were killed last month in a jihadist massacre. The protesters demanded the government ensure security from the attackers and that thousands of people displaced by fighting be allowed to return to their homes peacefully. The West African country has been facing an increase in attacks by groups linked to Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State since 2015.
This is the place for us to call on the head of state to take the problem seriously, because you know that is inadmissible that people can walk around with impunity in our territory, committing despicable acts and live serenely.
At least 4 people have lost their lives after one of the worst forest fires ran ablaze in Cyprus. The fire, which started on Saturday afternoon, destroyed homes and forced thousands of people to be evacuated from their villages. Several countries deployed firefighting aircraft to the Mediterranean island to try and put the blaze out. The fire was described as the largest to hit the country since 1974. Local media reported that a 67-year-old man had been arrested on suspicion of starting the blaze.
I saw the fire approaching from the top of the mountains. Immediately, we took the car of my child and we drove towards Farmakas. We informed the authorities that there was a fire, but unfortunately, the planes and the fire services arrived very late.
China rejected Monday alleged slander and false reports from the United States and the United Kingdom on Beijing's actions and role in international organizations. US President Joe Biden on Friday urged Western governments to work together to challenge what he called abuses by autocratic states such as China and Russia.
Firmly upholds and practices the multilateralism in real sense. The multilateralism that China advocates is a win-win cooperation, not a zero-sum game. It means fairness and justice, not bullying and overbearing. The multilateralism that China advocates focuses on actions, not words, and it is about respect for diversity, not self-reliance. China, together with developing countries, will continue to actively participate in the work of international organizations and contribute to the promotion of international cooperation and the practice of a true multilateralism. The words of some US and UK personnel are slander. The international community has its own judgment on the questions who engages in hegemony and unilateralism in the international community, and who uses international organizations for its own interests and abandons the organizations when there is divergence, and who use financial hegemony to suppress other countries.
1 person was killed and at least 30 injured after an explosion at a foam and plastic pellet manufacturing factory in Thailand's capital, Bangkok. Officials reported the explosion, which took place at a plastic factory near the international airport, killed at least 1 firefighter, while several of those injured were involved in firefighting and rescue efforts, local media said. 500 residents near the area were moved to 2 shelters, including a nearby school about 9 kilometres away. According to local authorities, the public have been ordered to stay away from a radius of at least 500 metres around the blast site. The cause of the explosion is still under investigation. Over 1,000 Afghan soldiers crossed over the border to Tajikistan, fleeing Taliban fighters. 1,037 troops sought refuge in the neighbouring country when Taliban fighters launched an offensive in northeastern Afghanistan. The Taliban, an Islamic armed group created by the United States in the 1970s, is now set to control the country again, following the US and NATO's withdrawal after 20 years of fruitless military intervention. On Monday, the Taliban warned the United States not to leave any troops under the guise of an advisory role. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram, and you can catch up on our shows on our YouTube channel. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.